Week 12 is in the books. We appreciate you guys joining us. It's time to show the penguin the moose. Go ahead and bring in my co-host David Cohn, my David Cohn.
You're David Cohn.
Former
Wow,
Michigan
it's a great way
David
to start
Cohn,
it.
and my brother, legitimately
Freaky
100%.
guy.
At least that's what they told me. Blaine Crane, former Western Colorado wide receiver. Guys, good to see you this morning. College football is flying by. We are to rivalry week. We are at Thanksgiving, and as great as it is, as fun as it is, man, I hate that it goes this fast, Dave.
It's the best week of the year, boys. Ohio week, Thanksgiving food. You guys got the Iron Bowl. It's Mom's birthday this week, just so happens in my family. So a lot of things to consider.
Definitely. Well, make sure you give her a happy birthday from me and Reed. Blaine, not craziness all around the yard yesterday in college football. At the top, I guess you could say. But there was some on the periphery that was very surprising when you look at Auburn lose New Mexico State. Fresno State lost to New Mexico at home. Shout out Brian Vincent.
BV, baby,
dog.
BV.
I see you, dog. BV, the OC there at New Mexico. That was a big win for them. But I want to start with Georgia, Blaine, and this is something that you've been saying. And, we've had Georgia ranked number one in our rankings the whole time. That there's been no swivel there from us. Is there a team that's better than Georgia right now?
No, there is not, and I don't think it's really that close. If you look at this Georgia team, one thing about them, what do they do every year? And this is a Kirby Smart coach team. They get better each week, right? Which is, if you're an opponent, which is deathly terrifying. You look at Carson Beck. I mean, he's getting more and more comfortable in the pocket. I mean, Ladd McConkey, I don't know if caught a pass yesterday, and they cleanly swept Tennessee. They're the best third down team in the nation. The run game's starting to come along. And kind of, we talked about this a little bit on the Saturday special. Georgia kind of went in reverse when it came to getting healthy. They were banged up at the beginning of the year. All right. And now you're seeing to get all the pieces to make the full Transformer Optimus Prime style. So Kirby Smart has these guys playing. One thing you watch in this game, one thing Georgia is so good on, right, is tackling in space. All right. Yes. Your defense travels and you can tackle in space against great athletes, which you're going to play once you get an SEC championship and the playoffs. That's what carries them over the top. Tackling space, attitude, mentality, and physicality. That is what this Georgia football team is about.
Yeah. Yeah, and David, yesterday, I mean, I tweeted out, about halfway through the first quarter. I mean, Carson Beck's has better protection than the president, man. I mean, when you look at the amount of time he has, and I'm going to make sure and give him credit. I mean, he's 24 of 30, all right, for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. Obviously Dylan Bell, that they ran that halfback pass off the toss that scored as well. But watching them operate, and make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys joining us. The thing that I think when I watch Georgia is their team balance is incredible, but their balance offensively, you never know what they're going to do because they can do everything. They can pitch backwards. They can run it, run the clock. They can do play action. They can go empty. They can hurt you there. Carson Beck runs just as well enough to put pressure on you. And Blaine hit it right on the head. How do you stop the style that Tennessee runs? How do you really stop any style, but especially the style that Tennessee has? You tackle in space. And outside of the first play, where, Georgia does this thing where, it's the hot girl at the school and she gives you the time of day every now and then. So you think you got a chance. And then you walk up to her and she ignores you. That's what Georgia does. They make you think you have a chance. Oh, here, Tennessee, first play, 70-yard touchdown. Hey, maybe y'all can do this. Maybe Joe Milton's going to figure it out too.
Florida, same way.
You score 3 points the rest of the game and get dropped like a bad habit at an AA meeting. I tell you what, man, David, I know Michigan, is a team that I picked to win it. I believe you picked to win it. But Georgia and Alabama, man, this is going to be a hell of a matchup before we even get to the playoff.
Yeah, and you talk about Carson Beck having great protection all the time in the world to throw, and he has great weapons, and those things are fantastic for any quarterback, especially a young quarterback. But at some point, we just have to acknowledge Carson Beck can just flat out play football. He threw a stick route to Brock Bowers yesterday that I just wanted to pull for a teach tape and just teach for the end of time. It was so incredible. Now, all those other things help make that possible, right? I understand that. But for most of the season, we've been talking about, just from our eye test and the experience we have with football, looks like this Georgia team and this Michigan team, these two teams look like the best in the country, but do we really know because their schedule is a little bit lighter? We're going to find out down the stretch. But now to me, it's just like one top tier. It looks like Georgia's at the top tier, and then we sort of have everyone else. And that doesn't mean they're going to win every football game. They're already locked in for an SEC championship, which I can't wait to see because Alabama's gotten better and better each week as well. But yeah, it looks like Georgia's just right there in a tier to themselves right now. And the scariest part for everyone else is what happened yesterday. That was their only like ranked road game that they're going to play. Right from now on, you're going to see mostly neutral site games when it comes to the SEC championship and when it comes to the bowl game. So I thought yesterday, with what we saw when they went on the road against Jordan Hare and that game was close at Auburn, maybe again, this is Carson Beck's first time going on the road versus a ranked team. Maybe they could sort of rattle him and give him problems, and it just wasn't the case. They continue to roll.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Carson Beck really is like 30 years old. He isn't one of these true It's not Dante Moore at UCLA that you put in there and said, "All right, good luck. We'll throw you to the fire." He didn't have a ton of on the field experience, but he had a ton of experience of preparing and understanding what it's like and traveling to these venues and seeing it. But if you're Tennessee right now, right, you got one game left in the year. To me, Joe Milton, once again, I know it's not all on him. Yesterday wasn't all on him, but you got another taste of who Joe Milton is. I mean, one point, I think in the third quarter, they had 24 passing yards, something like that. And there weren't guys that were running wide open. There's a couple guys downfield. He missed a guy on a vertical. Squirrel White, I think, was wide open on a vertical one play, and he didn't hit him. Is the Joe Milton experiment over? Is it time to go to Nico? I want to know what you think in the chat. Blaine, quickly, you look at the numbers. Tennessee did, Jalen Wright ran for 90 yards on 9 carries. That's pretty daggum good. Outside of that first one, though, didn't really do a ton. Joe Milton ends up going 17-30 for 147 yards, no touchdowns, and no interceptions. Just another mid-performance from a quarterback that we talked about all offseason. Isn't the Avenger that some people are making him out to be? Is the experiment over?
Yeah, I'm not for pointing fingers, but Joe Milton, you're the problem, right? I mean, that's what it is. I don't think your skill position players are great this year, especially what you lost last year and Jalen Hyatt and these other pieces. The scheme's not the problem. You had plenty of guys running open. You can run the football somewhat, but Joe Milton's feet's not there. And the one thing a lot of people don't realize what you lost with Hendon Hooker, it's not only a great thrower, but a great guy who can maneuver in the pocket, has great feel in the pocket. When you play teams like Georgia, when you play teams like Alabama, guys are going to get to you. They're just that good. They're that talented. But your skill and your movement in the pocket dictates how you can push the ball down the field. Joe Milton can throw a great deep ball. We all know this. He does somewhat overthrow kids sometimes, but that happens. But the intermediate to mediate game will forever be Joe Milton's problem. I didn't think Joe Milton was going to start throughout halfway of the year. Heupel made that decision. That's why their record's sitting what they are. I think Tennessee's a better football team than their record shows, but I feel like you can only go so far with Joe Milton. The Joe Milton experience started in Michigan. All right. You saw what happened here. All right. Started over Hendon last year. Hendon took that job. We know who Joe is. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. He's an okay player. He's a strawberry beer. It's She-Wolf. It's Smith. We all know that. This is not surprising. I have nothing against the guy. All right. But I'm sitting here and shoot you the facts, which is true. Tennessee had plenty of opportunities to score in that game yesterday. But in the day, if you're going to play a Georgia football team, you have to play perfect if you want to win. That's just the way it is.
Definitely. Well, what do we got? Go ahead, Dad.
One stat I thought was interesting. They had the 75-yard touchdown run on the first play. 2 minutes before halftime, they had 57 total yards. So you went the wrong direction for over a quarter and a half.
It's just Georgia they flip that switch. It's like, again, they give you a little bit of hope and then they take it away. But what's going on in the chat? What do they think?
I was going to Chris Walton. He wants to know, he says, UGA at this point is spotting every team 7 points in the beginning. Will that hurt them against Alabama?
Yeah. Well, look, Alabama's a team that we know talent-wise, at least the way they're playing right now, can match up with Georgia up front. I'm interested to see how the pass rush is for Alabama against Georgia's offensive line. That's kind of like a unstoppable, object meets an immovable object. That's going to be interesting to see. But no, you can't give this Alabama team right now with the way they're playing, even as good as you are spotting them any points. The matchup, I tell you what, the more I look at it, there's obviously NFL players running around all over this field, but the strengths of each of these teams and the balance of each of these teams, you have Jalen Milroe's athleticism against the athleticism of Georgia on defense, side to side. And I can't wait, but no, they can't spot Alabama. Georgia can't spot Michigan at this point in the season, right? When you get to championship time, whether it be conference championship, whether it be playing for a national championship, or obviously both, you have to play well. Right. You can't give teams too many lives. Right. We say in baseball, you can't give them more than 27 outs. Georgia right now, early in the game, is giving teams extra outs in the first inning, and then they score 13 runs and don't give up another run for the next 8. But you don't want to get in the business of living like that. But you know what it's perfect for? It's perfect for Kirby Smart to find something to get pissed about. What can I find to get upset about this week when we just went on the road and pulled Tennessee's pants down in front of God and everybody? Oh, bad start. Now I can yell and run around and our leadership can take over. So, you don't want to spot teams, anything. But now looking back on it, at least Kirby will have something to yell about in practice.
All right, let's go to Stephen Taylor. Coney, Washington Huskies are the #1 team in the country. USC, Utah, and Oregon State, 3 straight weeks, 2 on the road. Give me your thoughts.
We talked about how tough their schedule would be down the stretch, and I thought yesterday's win was as impressive as it gets for a couple of reasons. One, Oregon State is sort of a matchup problem for what Washington does, right? Oregon State can run the football. Oregon State can play strong defense. You add in the element that we talked about with Aaron Murray, with the rain and the weather being like that. That was a great recipe for Oregon State to win that football game, and Washington still took care of business. I was impressed. I was especially impressed with the secondary of Washington yesterday. Played really great against some of those wide receivers for Oregon State. They got to DJU. We saw some of the same problems that we had seen from DJU on Galilei. But Michael Penix Jr., look, 160 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's not like – that shows they can win without him having some sort of 450-yard game and multiple touchdowns. So a great win, and at this point in the season, what's most impressive is just to stay unbeaten.
Yeah, I mean, going to that Washington game, if you'd have told me that Washington would get shut out in the second half and still win, I'd have looked at you like you were crazy. I mean, they didn't score a point in the second half, and they were able to hold on. David, I think you're exactly right. This was an identity crisis for Washington going into this game in Oregon. We talked with Aaron Murray, supposed to rain. Washington is a pass-to-run team. They want to throw to run. Oregon State is exactly the opposite. And with the new clock rule, when it doesn't stop after first downs, we talked about how many possessions can Oregon State steal from Washington. This could be a game where Michael Penix in the offense almost has to be perfect because of their lack of possessions. And I didn't trust. Washington wasn't spectacular against the run yesterday. Damian Martinez had 26 carries, 123 yards, 2 tugs. DJU 6 for 53, which is a pretty good average. But they would bend but not break. Whenever Oregon State would get close, especially in the fourth quarter, Washington was able to make a play. They had a turnover and then forced a turnover right after that. That was huge to me. You're able to answer a mistake by causing a mistake on the other team. That's what championship teams do. I think this win was the most impressive win that Washington's had all year. In my opinion. Oregon at home, again, we all know that's a huge game. Oregon's a better team than Oregon State. They're about to play. But this was not a good matchup for Washington schematically. This was not a good matchup for Washington meteorologically. And this was not a good matchup for Washington if they were going to have limited possessions. But I was really impressed with Penix. That throw he made to not seal the deal, but give them that double-digit lead to Udunze's incredible NFL players.
Man.
Absolute.
To the field
that him and Joe Milton make to the field from the hash to the other numbers. I don't think people really realize. And I'll tell you what, J.J. McCarthy made a couple of these yesterday. I don't know if people realize how far that throw is. Like really how long that ball is in the air going to the other side of the field. It's incredible to see.
Let's go to Broken Devil Dog. We'll stay on Washington. Why is Penix not the front runner for the Heisman? The amount of ranked wins they have, and they are still undefeated.
Well, I think you could say he is, right? I know Bo Nix had more. I think him or Jaden Daniels had more touchdowns than incompletions yesterday, which is just absolutely insane to think about. But right now, I think Michael Penix is. But here's the great part, guys. Here's the best part about this whole situation. We're going to have a de facto Heisman game. That's what, because I don't think they're going to give it to Jaden Daniels. And look, we'll have that argument, and I think it depends on how you look at the Heisman. But that especially if Oregon takes care of Oregon State, I feel like Washington should take care of Washington State, even though it's the Apple Cup and the Civil War, which you talk about 2 totally opposite names. I think right now, whoever performs the best and wins that Pac-12 championship game is going to win the Heisman. That's what I really think.
I see it as a 3-horse race right now. Blaine, I'd like to hear what you think. I mean, I don't think Jaden Daniels may have worked himself up with this impressive performance these last 2 weeks to be like right there at 1A, but I see it as 1A, 1B, 1C. I don't think he can afford a loss to Texas A&M. You got to figure out a way to not just perform well in that final game, but also win it, and then just hope that Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. doesn't freak out with a Heisman moment in a conference championship game while you're on the sideline not playing that week.
Yeah, obviously that's going to hurt Jaden. Right now, from a Vegas betting standpoint, Jaden just moved up to number 2. Bo Nix is number 1. Michael Penix is number 3. Look, man, the guy had, I think, 9 touchdowns yesterday against Georgia State.
He's insane.
I mean, breaking a record. He has all better stats than all Heisman guys other than Joe Burrow. I mean, at this point, I just don't know how you don't give him the trophy. Like the kid is having one of the best years ever in college football. He's having the best year as a player in college football. It's not about the team you play for. All right. It's not. It's about the player. It's an individual award. That's what it is. It goes to the best player in college football. And Jaden Daniels is that this year. And I understand we can sit here and say, well, you know, what big games has he won? Well, hell, I mean, Bo Nix had won a big game, you know.
Well, he performed well in their losses too. That helped him.
For sure, but so did Jaden Daniels. I mean,
no, I'm talking about Jaden Daniels performed well in his losses. Even Bama, he got knocked out of that game, you know.
Yeah, so I just don't understand. I mean, just from an award that is an individual award. It's not about your team. It's about a player.
We'll see. I kind of disagree with you there, but so let me ask you this. What if Jaden Daniels had the exact same numbers and he was on a team that's 6-6?
Yes.
You give him the Heisman.
There's been multiple winners with 4+ losses in the Heisman.
4+?
Yeah.
When was the last person to win a Heisman that had 4
It's been
losses?
a while, but we haven't seen someone do this, what Jaden Daniels is doing.
Yeah, but this, again, this is, to me, when I think of the Heisman, and this is why the conversation is interesting, and the definition of the Heisman, it's like he's the most diligent or what. No, we need to figure out, is it the best player, right, that has the best numbers? Is that it? Because you can say Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player, but that's he doesn't have the numbers to back that up. Are we saying it's the best player in college football with the best stats, right? Or is it the best player on one of the best teams that's a championship contender with the numbers and Heisman moments, right? Is that the formula?
It's not a team award.
But how do you have
nothing to do with your team?
Football's a team sport. It has everything to do with your team. None of this happens if you don't have a team. Like, to have a Heisman moment, I throw the ball deep to make the guy's got to catch the ball. Like, I'm not going to throw up and go catch it myself. So I'm not saying it's not an individual award. It's given to one person. I get that. It's not the Joe Moore Award that's given to the whole offensive line. But I feel like the Heisman moment has to be in there somewhere. That's part of the story to me, in my eyes, and you can agree or disagree. That's part of the formula. Bo Nix hasn't had a Heisman moment this year. I don't think so. He's going to get a chance to. Will it come against Oregon State? Will it come against Washington? If they gave it to Jaden Daniels, I would not be pissed at all. I would stand up and clap and congratulate him. But if that's what we're going to do, then that's what we need to do going forward.
Well, I know he's having a better season than Tim Tebow, who went 9-3. He
Again,
had a better season
I would
than
have
RG3,
no problem
who went 9-3.
with
He's
Jaden
about to have a
Daniels
better
winning.
season than Lamar Jackson, who went 9-3.
Okay,
but
but
one more loss is going to dictate him not getting the Heisman.
Again, though, if you're going just off stats and numbers, then if he goes out and balls out against A&M and they still lose, like, he should still win it then.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we just disagree on the definition, which is fine. That's what makes the debate fun to me.
One little extra wrinkle involved in this conversation is his numbers are being helped by their defense being so bad. Remember, we talked about this with Shedeur Sanders at the beginning of the year when everyone was propping him up into the Heisman Trophy conversation. The fact that Colorado couldn't run the ball or play defense at all meant he had to throw the ball 50 times a game and throw for 450 yards. Whereas you look at someone like Carson Beck or J.J. McCarthy, whose teams are really good and they're not playing in the fourth quarter for much of the season. I know some of that's the schedule, but then that hurts them when it comes to Heisman Trophy conversation. Jaden Daniels seems to have worked past that just because the numbers are so freakishly good, right?
That's a double-edged sword as well. I mean,
if you're an LSU fan, I'm sick. You got to be sick.
Yeah.
If I'm an LSU fan, I am sick because we know what Burrow and them had. Here's the crazy part. You want to know the honest truth? And you can laugh, whatever. I'd rather have Jaden Daniels than Joe Burrow at LSU. I'd rather have Jaden Daniels. I would. Some people think that's crazy,
Mm.
but look at the numbers. Like Joe Burrow's and Jaden Daniels got Brian Thomas Jr. Jaden Daniels has obviously Malik Neighbors and some good tools. Can you imagine that man with Justin Jefferson? Can you imagine that man with Jamar Chase? Like, dude, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire? Like,
well, Malik Neighbors is going to finish above all of them in terms of stats, right? Isn't he working his way into the all-time receiving leader?
Brian Thomas Jr. has more touchdowns than all of them.
I think he may have broke it, but I think Jaden, to me in college, as a college quarterback, I'm saying college, I would take Jaden Daniels over Joe Burrow.
That's a take right there. All right, a couple things here. The house that Cody built, $5 donation. Appreciate it, Cody. Says the original Heisman went to Jay Burwanger on a 4-4 University of Chicago team. And Barry Sanders also won in '88 at Oklahoma State, who had 4 losses.
Barry Sanders, I get. Burt Wanger. Man, that was a hell of a season they had. Burt could really play. Really enjoyed watching that University of Chicago team. Him and Tom Crazy Eyes Simpson were really good.
That's the best duo since Eggman and Saucy Boy.
Yeah, well, we got to love Saucy Boy now. Let's go to Coach Vic 7. He says, Joe Alt's the best player in football, but a lineman will never win the Heisman.
Yeah, listen, if a defensive player is never going to win it, like it's a quarterback award. Let's be honest, right? It's the Davey O'Brien Award just dressed up better. It's like more important. That's really what it is. But no, again, you could say Joe Alt. You could sit here and say, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. off talent alone. But man, I think it just depends on how you define the Heisman. That's to me, that's where the debate is.
All right, let's get to CG87343. A little transition here. It's about time we do. What on earth happened to Auburn getting trounced by New Mexico State, yet beating Arkansas handedly? Also, Washington did well with Oregon State, and Michigan got away with one, too.
Yeah, also hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We appreciate you guys in the chat. Just takes a couple seconds. Not hard to do. Auburn. We talked last week. This New Mexico State team is not some Alabama A&M or North Alabama that's no good. Jerry Kill is a damn good football coach. He has been for a long time. This is a team that had some pieces. And I don't want to just sit here and say, oh, well, Auburn was looking ahead to Bama. Because I watched most of that game. Auburn got beat by a better team. You want to be honest. It looks like USA Today was right when they ranked New Mexico 2 spots above Auburn, New Mexico State. They dominated that game in every aspect. From the jump, from the absolute jump. Auburn couldn't get off the field on defense. I was shocked that they kept, all out blitzing. Why you all out blitz when it's 3rd and goal from the 19? I don't, or the 15 or whatever it was. I don't understand that. But they got beat everywhere. That was New Mexico State came in and was the better team. So we can sit here and say, oh, Auburn looked ahead. I know for a fact the coaches told them all week about this New Mexico State team. But here's the deal. It's an inexcusable loss, right? You can't lose that game. Now, we've watched, and I'm not saying Hugh Freeze is Nick Saban. We watch Alabama lose to La Monroe, and we've seen this happen before. So this isn't some groundbreaking thing. This isn't the first time this has ever happened. And, New Mexico State's 9-3. So this isn't some pushover team. But all that momentum, you have a bunch of momentum in recruiting, and you let New Mexico State come in and push you around in your house. You let them walk in, take the remote from you, and they made you go make them a sandwich. It's unacceptable. It's embarrassing. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's on everyone. It's on the coaches. It's on the players. This loss is on everyone. It's not one specific thing. But here's the silver lining. Here it is. Guess what? You beat Bama this week, which good luck. But you beat Bama this week, it all gets erased. It's like it never had. It turns into a Billy Mays commercial, But wait, there's more. All those. What did they say on Dewey Cox? It's like it turns all your sad feelings into happy feelings. It's like it's awful loss. You have a chance to rebound. It's inexcusable, but I want to make sure we give New Mexico State credit because they came in there and won that game. And at the end of the day, you're sitting down and I'm in that coaches meeting, and we need to figure some stuff out. You got to get some players in here that can do it. Like you go beat. That's how bad Arkansas is, by the way. But you got to get some guys in here that you can go out there and you don't have to play at the highest level all the time to be able to beat a team like New Mexico State. Auburn got pushed around yesterday, Blaine. I watched it.
Yeah. It's one thing you have a bunch of guys who, haven't been successful, and they also haven't seen success.
Mm-hmm.
And then we expect them to go out there and just be successful on every Saturday. And you see teams who are like that, they play inconsistent football.
Yep.
Right. And that's what Auburn does. I don't think we looked over this team. I don't think this is on Hugh. There's some coaching, little ticky-tacky things we could go back over. I just think Auburn doesn't have the guys right now. And we have talked about this all the time. This is the worst team Hugh Freeze will have. But there needs to be a message sent in this locker room that, to wear this jersey, it's an opportunity. You don't deserve anything. All right. You don't have a right to do anything. What have y'all done? Mm-hmm. Show me somewhere on this schedule something that y'all done that'll impress me. Okay. If you think you're automatically going to be here, I play at Auburn, I can do this, I can do that. Sorry, buddy. The future might look a little rough for you because you can pull up on a website and see what this coaching staff's doing recruiting. All right. At the end of the day, Hugh's going to get the right guys in here, and either you're with it or you're against it. We don't owe you anything. None of the fans owe you anything. You have to go perform, but you're getting paid. This is your job. Okay. And either you show up or you get out. So I'm not panicking. I believe in Coach Freeze. I think he's going to get us on the right track. But it takes time. And look, man, it's like gangrene. You got to cut off the arm before it spreads to the body. I think Hugh will get that done.
Yep. Agreed. Speaking of Michigan, though, I do want to hit that for a second. That game, it felt like Michigan would pull away, it's over, and then something else would happen. I thought Michigan was very conservative yesterday, schematically, David. JJ ended up throwing 23 passes. He was 12 of 23, 141 yards and interception. I don't think he played very well yesterday.
No.
I thought he made some decisions in the red zone throwing the ball that you better get him out now. Thank goodness you got him out now, because there was a couple times Maryland should have had a couple more interceptions before he threw that pick there at the end, and they were able. I do want to give Michigan credit. They gave up those 2 touchdowns there in the third quarter when Maryland got that momentum and then shut them out in the fourth. But I mean, you get a block punt, right? You had some things go your way. You got that fumble, but some games, David, this, you just got to survive. But I think I found out the perfect descriptive word for this Michigan team, this offense in general. They're smushy. They're just smushy. And I don't mean that like they're soft, like a peach, you know what I'm saying? That's ready to eat. You can dent it in. It's a little bit smushy. I'm talking about they just smush you. It's just I would not be shocked if I just heard, smush noises or just things smushing if I was down on the sidelines, because I just watch them, and it's just like watching one of those videos on TikTok that's like cut into where something's happening on this side and it's something like very satisfying, like somebody's doing like some painting. They're just smushy, man. I mean, Corum, 94 yards, 28 carries, gave him the rock a lot, 2 touchdowns. You survived, and that's what you had to do.
Look like multifaceted from my perspective. One, you hit on it, extremely conservative with the play calling. We kind of saw this the last 2 weeks, but looking like they didn't want to show anything too intricate before next week. Also looking like they're trying to play to not get guys hurt before the big game next week, which oftentimes is a recipe to get players injured more easily. But I think the Blake Corum injury against Indiana last week before that big game kind of stuck in people's mind. And then also, there's some personal things here with Josh Gaddis being the OC at Maryland. Was the OC for the Wolverines just 24 months ago. You're going to get your best shot from him with a young
stole the signals. He had their signals.
And plus, this is the type of Maryland team I thought we were going to get most of this season. I think they've underperformed when you talk about what Mike Locksley can do from a head coaching perspective, and you have Taulia Tagovailoa. Some of the balls he threw, I'm like, well, this is what we've been seeing for much of the past 2 years. But and then on the JJ McCarthy point, forced some balls in the red zone that I was just absolutely shocked. Got away with a couple of them. The one that did get intercepted was just a terrible decision. It's like sometimes he does turn into this old school gunslinger. I see a lot of Brett Favre there. And, I think he's gotten away with these throws for most of his life. And now his arm strength has increased and he doubly thinks, hey, I can make every throw in the book. And he's just making poor decisions down the stretch. But even on the ones where he wasn't trying to fit balls into double coverage, he missed a wide open Cornelius Johnson for a big touchdown. That ball is behind him. We haven't seen JJ McCarthy really miss those throws. So inaccurate down the field. He's not playing his best football at the right time to me, which is why I think that Michigan is sort of regressing. That cannot be the case next week. You're not just going to run all over this Buckeye defense the way that you did Penn State. Yeah. JJ McCarthy has to play his best game. And luckily, we saw him do it last year and we saw him do it on the road. So I'm not really panicking. This game wasn't as close as the Indiana game was last year when Jake Moody had to hit a walk-off field goal. Plus, this game was on the road. You survive. You're 11-0. Handle your business at home because it's going to be a big week.
You know what JJ McCarthy's like with the new arm strength, wanting to show it off. He's like the person that, like the guy that lost a bunch of weight during the summer and now just walks around with his shirt off all the time, like just to show it. That's what JJ McCarthy's like to me. He's like, his arm's stronger now. He's like, hey, watch this. He's trying to force it in places they're basically impossible throws. But Dave, he ripped some yesterday. Talking about good throws, he ripped a couple.
He did.
One to the sideline. I mean, that ball is absolutely slicing through the air. He really has. You talk about improving and increasing your arm strength throughout your career, especially when you get later in your career. You can tell it's a huge difference to me.
No doubt. A couple of those balls, when it comes out of his hand, it looks like Michael Penix Jr. throwing it. But again, I would trade a few miles per hour off those throws for the accuracy that we've seen him throughout the year. And again, when I talk about not wanting to get players hurt, you didn't see any quarterback design run yesterday, which JJ McCarthy coming in was like, hey, he's a true dual threat, right? Zone read, Q power, Q draw, all those kind of things. I think you're going to see more of that next week when they need to have it all. It just so happens that down the stretch of this game, it almost cost them, but not quite.
All right. Yeah, that was one thing I was going to bring up was, you're not seeing JJ in the run game at all. I think really wary if you're not going to do that. I know you don't want to get him hurt, but sometimes you slip up and find yourself in a one possession game with Maryland in the fourth quarter. Yeah. So I think right now this Michigan team's almost the same to me as you look at last year. I think they're a better team than Ohio State. I don't think Kyle McCord is good enough to beat them. But what Michigan has a problem with, right, when you run into a team like Georgia, all right, where you're not going to average 4 on the ground a carry, where you can't just turn around and hand the ball off and go get a W. You have to get fancy. You have to throw the ball. You have to win sideline to sideline. You have to have guys who win one-on-one matchups if you're going to beat a team like Georgia. And right now, I don't think Michigan's not used to guys being able to extend them on the offensive line and kind of do what they want with them. And I know Georgia doesn't have a Jalen Carter or a big name, but they got 4 to 6, 7 guys who can play up front. Yeah. So Michigan get over the hump. That's what it is. All year we've been talking about Georgia, Michigan. You talk about all these other teams, but it's going to be Georgia, Michigan. Can Michigan beat this Georgia team?
Yeah, we'll see.
If they play the way they did the past 2 weeks, next week they're not going to be facing Georgia. Like there has to be a change in mentality. And I think that they understand that better. In Schembechler Hall, it was Ohio week 24 hours ago when that game ended. So they understand what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a team with experience too. I think sometimes we forget, and people in sports media, these guys have been here. Like they made the playoffs past 2 years. They've lost in different ways to different type teams. I don't think this team is going to lose because of immaturity. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that's one of the reasons we've had them where we've had them is because experience is the unteachable intangible. You can't put that in somebody. You have to go through it, and they've got it in spades. We're going to get to the chat in 1 second. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, let's just don't act too like it's meaningless that you don't have your head coach on the sidelines for critical game decisions. Sure. And you saw Sharon Moore a couple times on 4th down, didn't go for a few, did go for a few. I mean, think about it. When the head coach is thinking ahead on 3rd down, okay, in all of these different scenarios, am I going for 4th and 1? Am I going for 4th and 2? Am I punting on 4th and 5? Sharon Moore's trying to decide the 3rd down play call, right? And now all of a sudden you got a guy who's never been a head coach trying to make those game time decisions at the same time he's putting the offensive game plan together. It's not the same as these head coaches who have been a head coach and calling plays and have that experience, and you find yourself on the road sometimes. It's tough to be in that position.
No, without a doubt. Going to get back to the chat in a second. We appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button. Speaking about not getting quarterback hurt, your quarterback hurt, just feel awful for Jordan Travis. Just, regardless of who you root for, You hate to see that. It was nasty. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty bad. The injury against North Alabama. I know we're going to get into the discussion of what does this do for their playoff chances. We're going to cover that all week. I don't think it should hinder it. I think you got to be present where your feet are and stand on your team's record. But just I hate it for him. You could see how much it affected the other players, which shows you the leadership that Jordan Travis has. And let me ask you this, David. Me and Blaine were talking about this last night. Does Jordan Travis have a COVID year? Does he have another year?
Jake, it's 2023, man. You can play as long as you want.
Oh, that's true.
I don't think the NCAA can make you stop playing football.
Well, I want to go in. I wanted to suit up third quarter against New Mexico State, but it would have been much worse. We'd have probably lost by 4 touchdowns. But when it comes to Jordan Travis, and I know they're going to have talks about him if he can return and things like that. It just my heart breaks for him. You know how much work that goes into it, and David, I mean, you did it in real life as a quarterback at the Division I level, at the Power 5 level, and against North Alabama, and it wasn't intentional. Nobody was trying to hurt anybody. It's just a violent sport. I was thinking this morning, and we were talking about before we came on here. Is that our coach is going to start looking at a team like North Alabama, not New Mexico State, that's 8-3. Like I'm talking about bottom level, lower level, and I'm not trying to take any pot shots in North Alabama, but you can go out there and roll your helmet out and have a good chance to beat them. Do you not play them? Do you not play your guy? Right? I think you have to, right? But man, it's just an awful situation. I hate it for him.
Yeah, I hate it for him too. And we just talked about that with Michigan. I saw some of that, right? Like you're trying not to get guys hurt, and sometimes that leads to even more injuries. I guess what you're saying is, would you just not play some of your starters for the entirety of a game leading up to that? Again, that's a dangerous recipe in college football. We see that in the NFL sometimes on the last week of the season where you've already got a playoff berth locked up. It makes more sense. But in college, with a Florida State team that we talked about, hey, I don't think an ACC team can make the playoff this year unless they go undefeated, then look, I mean, you really can lose to anyone. I know it's North Alabama, but it's a tough situation. I hate it for them. I don't think it changes anything for Florida State, though, in terms of being unbeaten. Yeah. If they go undefeated, they're going to make the college playoff, or they should make the college football playoff, regardless if their starting quarterback is there or not. If they get one loss in the championship against Louisville or even against Florida this upcoming week, then it's a different conversation to me.
Yeah. Blaine?
Man, this just sucks, to be honest. The kid was actually having a phenomenal year, but man, like I'm one of those guys, like now the comeback story is going to be even greater, dog. God does everything for a reason. You'll be back. You'll be better than ever. And I know JT's a tough ass kid, and I think you have to play him. I mean, it's a kid last home game at Florida State. He's got to be out on that field. And it just happens sometimes in football. It sucks, but it's just part of the game. And you got to get past it. It sucks for FSU. It sucks for Mike Norvell. Because at this point, like you're going to have chances. All right. I think you're going to play a Florida team without Graham Mertz. Didn't Graham get hurt yesterday?
Graham got hurt yesterday.
But you go play.
I don't know yet. I think it's a shoulder.
He's going to be out this week. But you go play a damn good Louisville team who has a big win over Miami. If you watch that game, that was a hell of a game to watch. Mm-hmm. I do feel like this will affect them from where a committee is going to put them. I think they will drop. Obviously, they will not be the same type of team without Jordan Travis, who was in the Heisman talk. He would have been invited, in my opinion. But this is going to be a completely different team. The backup's okay. It's not Jordan Travis. But I don't know, man. It's I still need time to get past this. It just sucks. Florida State's having a hell of a year, man. They're geared up to ready to go make a playoff run.
Look, they're not dead yet, though. Like they're not dead yet, right? Obviously, you're hurting, but you're still in the hunt. We'll see. One of the things about Florida State is they've got good enough players on the outside that can go make plays, right? It's just Jordan. The thing that hurts the most outside of the obvious is his ability to scramble with his eyes down the field and create. That's the part that I think if you do run up against a Georgia or a Michigan or somebody like that, it's not just going to be bread and butter. Hey, the play's working. Let's just keep running the play. It's working exactly like it's designed. You got to be able to make those plays that turn bad plays into okay plays, turn bad plays into great plays, turn good plays into elite plays. That's what extends drives. That's what scores in the red zone. That's going to be the toughest part. We want to know what you think. Should Florida State be affected ranking-wise by losing Jordan Travis? But speaking about being effective, I am adopting Louisville as my favorite team this year. You want to know what makes me sick? How did y'all lose to Pitt?
Mhm.
How did y'all lose on the road to Pitt? Boys, if they don't lose that game, we're looking at an 11-0 Louisville playing a Kentucky team coming up this next week, right? That wouldn't be the best one in the world, but they'd be 12-0, and they would be playing Florida State, I think, for a chance to make the playoff. I think Louisville could legitimately make the playoff if they hadn't have lost to Pitt. We asked, what plumber are we going to get, right? Are we going to get the plumber that shows up and fix it in 2.5 hours and you become friends? Or is it going to be the plumber that shows up, says he forgot a screw at Home Depot, and you don't see him for 2.5 months? Well, we got the one that fixed it in 2.5 hours. Jack went 24-37, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have the one pick. The safety baited him. I think they were in man free, something like that. The safety baited him. It was a nice play. It was a long throw. But on that same token, hell, I thought Tyler played really well on the other side for Miami. I mean, 24-39, 327 yards. They almost had identical numbers. Now, Tyler only had 1 touchdown, but did have no interceptions. But it was a balanced attack from both. I mean, you look at, Jawar Jordan ended up with 33 yards on 9 carries. Garendo ended up with 93 yards on 15 carries. But Mark Fletcher Jr. from Miami dropped 126 on 17 carries with 2 touchdowns. Brashard Smith had that great run, I believe, on the reverse, had 2 carries for 34 yards and a touchdown. This was a hell of a football game. But what did Louisville do? They made the plays when they had to. You tied them in the first, 14 up, right? You basically were tied at halftime. You were down 1, missed the extra point. They beat you in the third, 7-3. You beat them 15-3 in the fourth. When you had to put your foot on the gas pedal and scream America, you did. Louisville just finds a way to win. Outside of that Pitt game, they have just found ways to win. But the difference in this Louisville team, and this is what we've talked about, this isn't finesse Louisville. This isn't let's just do a lot of intricate stuff and not be super physical. This is a downhill, run it right down your throat, play action, stymie you on defense, hit physical hits across the field from the line to the intermediate to the deep third. This is a great football game yesterday. And also, I want to give kudos to Mario Cristobal and his team for bouncing back mentally after losing that tough game against Florida State. They could have just mailed it in, but they showed up yesterday, and they were getting after Louisville early. But what a football game.
Yeah, I don't think anybody lost in this game. The one thing about Miami, and this has always been like that, they have some of the best looking cats who run on.
Oh, they do, don't they?
The Mark Fletcher Jr. kid just looks like an NFL back. I mean, you have Restrepo, who's probably going to go play for the Dolphins somewhere. Jacoby George, who's an NFL receiver. I mean, Kobe Young, who's going to be damn good too. These are two. Miami might be the best 6-5 football team in the country, in my opinion. Big kudos to Tyler Van Dyke. Had a great game. If you'd have told me he'd have thrown for 330, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, and Mark Fletcher Jr. would have over 120 yards on the ground, I would have felt really good about Miami. But I tell you what, the coach of the year this year, right? The coach of the year has to be Brom.
Has to be.
It has to be Brom. And what he's done in his first year at Louisville is remarkable. You lose to Pitt. You have a big win over Notre Dame. You have a big win over Duke. And I know that's not looking as great anymore, but Riley's been banged up the whole year. And you still have a chance to go beat a number 4 Florida State team. So kudos to Louisville. Keep it pumping. If you do beat that Florida State team, 11-1 Louisville, 7-1 in conference.
They got to get through an in-state rival first, too. I mean, they get a chance to beat Kentucky, and that always means something to them.
True. But, I mean, God, Kentucky is falling off an absolute cliff.
Big win for South Carolina yesterday.
Yeah. This is one I wasn't going to bet it. Had a feeling that South Carolina was going to be able to win it. As bad of a matchup as that was, in my opinion, for South Carolina, because they're not good in the front 7. Kentucky's a box run team. South Carolina found a way. Weird things happen in Columbia at night. I've been there, coached there. It's a crazy place. Happy for Spencer Rattler and Shane them for getting that win. But yeah, Louisville and Kentucky are going totally opposite directions now. And I tell you what, that if you're Florida State, I mean, that Florida game, even without Graham Mertz, is looking a lot different. And then you got to run into these cats that have just found a way. But I agree with you on Brom, man. It's been a hell of a way to set the tone in year 1 at Louisville. And boy, did Scott Satterfield do Louisville the biggest favor in the world. The biggest favor in the world. Look at the 2 trajectories right now of what Louisville's doing with Brom and what Cincinnati's doing with him. I think they did him a big favor, to be honest with you. But all right, let's get back to the chat.
All right, let's go to Broken Devil Dog, $5 donation. We're going to hit some of these donos real quick. It was a perfect recipe for the disaster for University of Michigan. A hungover from Penn State, a look ahead to Ohio State, and no Harbaugh Still made it out 11-0. Go Blue, BOS.
Did what you had to do. Did
Go
what
Blue.
you had to do. Like at the end of the day, it's very true.
Let's go to Ryan Gade, $5 donation. Appreciate it, Rhino. West Virginia with a convincing bounce-back win with the 424 rushing yards. Hashtag country roads. Good for Neil Brown, man.
Yeah, man.
4-2-4.
Yeah, really turned it around. Very happy for Neil. He was on the hot seat this year. West Virginia, I thought it was one of the best bets on the board. I got it at 6.5, and it kept dropping. But before the start of that game, and I couldn't believe it, I think it was -5 at one point. But West Virginia is just better. Cincinnati struggles to do pretty much everything right now, kind of as we mentioned before. But no, that was I love the Green kid, the young quarterback they have. I think he's going to be a special guy. But they've got everything working, man. The run game, they're very balanced. The play action game's good. They can spit it out. They do stuff on the outside that I really like. Neil does a really, really good job, and happy for him.
All right, let's go to Coach Vic 7. He says, what about drink for Coach of the Year?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Missouri right now. It looks like they're on the way to 10-2. Survived last night. They were able to kick that field goal late. Converted a 4th and 18, something like that, to Luther Burden Jr. He just ran and sat down past the first down. They got him the ball. I would cover that guy if I was Florida. I wouldn't let him just free release and go run around.
Anybody you want to cover?
Yeah, it's exactly right. But now look, this Missouri team, they're just different. They're different, and I really believe. And they talked about this a little bit on the broadcast last night, but we had talked about it a couple of weeks ago. I think that win over Kansas State proved it to them. I think, Missouri really hadn't been able to get over that hump for that huge win, right? They're always close. Like Georgia last year, they're close, and they don't really get it. Not that Kansas State's as big as beating Georgia, but they needed that big primetime home win or win in general to really get them believing. And it's like this team after that Kansas State game said, you know what? We shouldn't just be hoping to win these games. We can win these games. We should win these games. Missouri looks like a team that has experienced players because they do. I still think Brady Cook is the most underrated quarterback in the country, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country. But it's like they convinced themselves, hey, we should win these big games. We can win these big games. This is us, right? You never know if you can fight until you get in one. And when you win it, you get a lot more confident. That's what it feels like to me watching Missouri play.
And just think about the game management skills down the stretch of that game too last night. When they completed that big pass to Luther Burden, which was an awesome throw and a great catch. You get that first down and, you're thinking, oh, well, now they're in field goal range because our kicker is so great. That still would have been like a 57-yard field goal or something like that. Brady Cook completes 2 more passes without timeouts to the sidelines. They get out of bounds. It makes it more of a chip shot field goal. If you take a sack there, the game's over. He knows what's going on. He knows the game management. They're well coached. It's just very impressive.
Very impressive.
Shout out to that thick kicker, too, in Missouri, baby. The big boy is
Mevis.
clutch.
Mevis.
It's absolute clutch. All right, let's go to Supreme Monarch. What's up, brother? So Louisville had a big win over Miami, ? But FSU's win over Miami wasn't big. LOL, the hate is real. I don't know if anybody said that on this show, buddy. We always say rivalry.
Anytime Florida State beats Miami, it's big.
Is a big win.
No, look, at this point, every win is a big win. I'll say this: there are a couple differences. One, that I think that game's easier to get up for, obviously, for Miami, right? Florida State, your in-state rival, well, one of them when it comes to the state of Florida. Second thing is, Florida State played that game at home, right? Louisville went on the road and won this game. So we're not saying one win is better than the other, right? When Florida State won it, we talked about Florida State you had to survive. You got to win. It was a big win. Every win's a big win. But I think it's a little bit harder on the road. But at no point do I think we've discounted Florida State's win against Miami.
Look, I love the hate that you're creating.
Yeah, look, choose violence.
I get it. Michael Jordan, put that chip on your shoulder. Yeah, I made the Florida State hype video. Florida State didn't offer me a scholarship, and that hurt my feelings for a long time, but then they put me in the hype video last week. I think all things are even now.
I think it is too, David. I think you're right.
All right, guys, breaking news from Heartbroken Hogs. Syracuse plans to dismiss Dino Babers via Pete Thamel.
Yep, wow. That's not surprising. It's the same trick. Right, look good early, fall off a cliff. It had to happen. I hate it for Dino, but to be honest with you, he was the head coach at Bowling Green. We played him in the Camellia Bowl, and they beat us in the last second. So I'm not crying. It's not personal though.
Oh, man.
I was going to Keith Lott with a $5 donation. Appreciate it, Keith. It says UM's faced 8 teams under 500. I guess winning percentage. 10 with 4 losses. UA and GA have NFL first round talent on all 3 levels. History say 2 weeks to prepare SEC teams, and you get destroyed.
The strength of schedule argument, I get that. Okay, I understand that Michigan hasn't played the greatest schedule of all time, but what have I always said? These guys have been here for 3 years. Like, I know who Michigan is. I know who J.J. McCarthy is. They have 7 potential draft picks on the offensive line. 7. You play with 5 unless you go jumbo. Okay, we know who Blake Corum is. We know who Donovan Edwards is. We know who the receivers are. We know 75% of the defense, who they are. So I don't need Michigan to sit. I don't got to sit here and guess about who Michigan is. Now, am I saying that they're better than Georgia or better than Alabama or have more talent? No, but I don't need them to go beat Indiana by 60 for me to know who Michigan is. I don't need them to go play a top 5 team in the country every year to know who Michigan is. Now, we'll see what they do at the end. Like we said, they have experience losing 2 different ways to 2 different style teams. And yes, I mean, right now you would lean SEC, right? I don't think that's a crazy thing to say, but I am not nearly as concerned about the strength of schedule as other people are because of experience. If you were a great salesman in 2022, right, and I gave you a bunch of big accounts and you were a really great salesman, then you came back the next year and the first month, I'm giving you the easiest sales of all time. I'm not going to doubt your ability to sell things just because it's easier to do it early. I know who Michigan is.
All I took from that comment is that Georgia and Alabama have a lot of NFL players and they win a lot of games. Congrats on watching college football.
Yeah, no, they do, but Michigan has a lot of NFL.
Yeah,
players.
I mean, talent gets you through the door. Execution gets you championships, right? So, I mean, every team's going to be talented, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to execute.
Yeah, in the last couple of years, has anybody proven to dial up, to take that next step up in December when you get those weeks off? See, college football is so much weirder than any other sport, where you end the season at the beginning of December and you really don't even start the postseason play until the end of December. And in between that, you have a semester change too. So you could lose guys who are ineligible based off academics. I've seen all sorts of things happen. Kirby Smart the last couple of years, when it gets December and you give him a couple of weeks to prepare, it's just like he's almost unbeatable.
Yeah. Well, it's also great when you don't have to worry about guys opting out. You're like, oh, hey, yeah, man, don't have to worry about opting out because we're playing in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
Nobody's opting out of that. But speaking of execution, man, sports is the only thing where, when something gets executed, it's good.
True.
Just the truth.
I don't know. I'm not necessarily true. I feel like serial killers getting executed is a positive.
Okay, well, it's a bad situation. It's a bad situation.
Oh, that's too far. I'm sorry, Mr. Perfect. Okay. Let's go to Jeremy here. I'm going to go ahead and say this. Is Blaine okay? He looks mildly pissed and confused. I think I read angry. I'm reading chat.
Blaine's an angry reader.
Like, I guess I have an angry reading face.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. No, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm just going for my fancy.
God, Blaine, why are you so upset? Calm down.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably because we lost to New Mexico State. So that's for another day. I'm just gonna Blaine Gilbert, whose name is spelled like mine. Are we related?
Yeah.
That's the first time I've ever seen that. So that's great. It says, who's on upset alert this coming week? Is it FSU or Oregon?
Look, well, it's rivalry week. Everybody's on upset alert. I mean, this is the scariest game, right? This is the scary one. It's because it's personal, right? Even if you're Alabama. Auburn just lost to New Mexico State. That's probably the worst thing that could have happened, honestly, for Bama, right? Like, not that Bama's still most likely going to win. I don't think that's, anybody's doubting that. But, you wanted Auburn to beat New Mexico State by 50, whatever. Now they're embarrassed. Like, now you embarrass the brand. So you have to make up for it. You're going to fight that much harder. But this game, the Iron Bowl, at Jordan-Hare, who the hell knows? Or the Civil War, who the hell knows? Washington State. You can't. That's not going to be just a walk in the park.
Washington State rolled Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely rolled them. It's an emotional time. It's an emotional game. And speaking of rivalries, how about UCLA yesterday, boys?
Yeah, I wanted to take them, man. I'm so mad. I was going to take them with the points, not money line. But, man, they just came out and said – and plus Chip Kelly came out and said, look, I had a conversation with the AD who's talking about these rumors swirling. He said there's nothing to those. Now, look, things change in the 24 hours after the season ends. I get that. But I don't know. Maybe it looks like they're not firing Chip Kelly. What do you guys think?
I hope not after that win against USC. I don't think it's going to happen. But, I mean, if I'm a USC fan, like, What was that?
Mm.
What was that? What was that yesterday?
It was the encapsulation of the entire 2023 season.
Wrong man get fired at USC?
No, Grinch should have got fired. I don't think Lincoln. I'm just sitting here looking, man. Like year 2, all right, year 2, right? With Lincoln, you've had Caleb, for 2 years. We know what you did at Oklahoma. It just
And the thing about it, like you're
the
about to
team just
go,
don't look-
you're
doesn't
about
look
to
like they
go
want to fight.
face they're Big Ten next year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're about to go face UCLA every weekend. All right, who's going to turn around, hand the ball off, run it down your throat, and play good defense?
Laugh
So
all
you
you
best
want.
get adjusted quick.
Iowa will shove you in a locker very quickly. Very quick. Make fun of them. We can make fun of them all we want. And they deserve it for how bad they are on offense. But if you take that product,
Wisconsin,
like they said, to the Midwest, like you will get embarrassed. Like you think this is bad? Go look at what those things that Michigan and Ohio State have up front are some of these other guys. Wisconsin's going to figure it out. I'm just telling you. At some point with Luke Fickell, he's going to figure it out too. And if you're going to go up to Madison, right, in November with that garbage you just put on the field, they will rip your limbs apart and throw it to the dogs. That's what will happen. So Lincoln better they better get tough quick at USC. They better get tough quick because this isn't a Billabong surfing competition. All right. That's not what this is.
Agreed. You guys, they were asking about upset alert. What do you guys think about Texas's win yesterday on the road at Iowa State?
I thought it was clean. You did what you had to do. This is a scary ass game, right? You survived it. We talk about Michigan surviving. I mean, you look at Iowa State. Beck did throw for 323. The we were worried about Texas secondary. Blaine's been talking about the whole year. I mean, and Rocco and Iowa State's passing offense isn't exactly electric. They still throw for 323 and 2 touchdowns, but you saw they couldn't run the ball, right? Their leading rusher had 11 yards, the Samu guy. But then you look at Texas. Thought Baxter was pretty good, right? 117 yards on 20 carries. Matt Campbell and them do a really good job on defense with what they do moving around. Quinn looked a little healthier to me yesterday. Ball came out of his hand a little bit better. He was 23 of 33, had 281 yards and 2 touchdowns. But you survived, and I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to keep saying it, and I think you agree with me. If Texas wins out, they are going to be in the playoff because I don't think, especially right now, that Florida State's probably going undefeated. That Louisville game is going to be really tough. Like right now, and they still got to go to the Swamp. You look at Washington, who's still undefeated, still has to play Washington State and Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Big Ten team's going to be undefeated, right? It's going to be undefeated. And all the stuff, Texas, Bama fans can worry about Texas, and I get it, and they should. But Alabama has to worry about Auburn and then Georgia. Yep. Like this isn't don't put the cart before the horse. Because again, I mean, the more I sit here and watch tape on Georgia, the better they look to me. So I was impressed with Texas. It was a nice win. You just got to keep rowing the boat, man. Just keep rowing it. Quote PJ Fleck.
I mean, a win's a win. You got if they win out, they're in. But I wasn't impressed. To be honest with you, like watching Oklahoma makes me less impressed with Texas. Like watching Oklahoma in that BYU game was god awful. I know Dylan Gabriel got hurt, but your defensively, goodness gracious, it's just bad. Tackle. I just worry because I'm one of those guys. If you deserve to get in, you deserve to get in. But I just don't want to see blowouts in the playoffs. I just don't want to see them. That's why I get worried with Florida State if we're going to put them in. I don't want to see them get dog walked in the first round. I want competitive games. These are the 4 teams that we got to put in there. And I just feel like Texas right now is regressing. Even winning, they're still regressing. What I saw early Texas was a fantastic football team. Hitting on all cylinders, and you got to be peaking at the right time. A win's a win. Man, I just get worried.
What do you think about Texas Tech coming in next week? Texas Tech,
Texas Tech or UCF?
3-game win streak. I mean, the game is in Austin, but you guys think Texas? That's what really got me thinking about it when we were talking about upset alert here in rivalry week.
I think they're very fortunate this game's at home. I think they're very fortunate. Obviously, this is, Texas Tech with what Coach McGuire is doing. We're big fans of Joey McGuire. Seems like they've kind of, turned the corner. I know they've had the quarterback injury. Shuck went down earlier in the year. They played Oregon really tough early, but it's a scary game, right? Because obviously Tech knows where Texas is going. They know this is the last time, right? And you look at what a better way to send somebody out than to ruin their playoff hopes in state, right? What do you think Auburn is doing. Not that Alabama's going anywhere, but all Auburn has left to play for now. I mean, you have pride, duh. You always have pride when you play, but you can ruin the season. You can absolutely ruin the season. That's you're playing spoiler, and there's a lot of motivation in that, right? Right? If I'm not going to be okay, you're not going to be okay. Right? I'm not going to sit over here and be upset and watch you go have the time of your life. I'm going to ruin it for both of us. We'll both sit over by the lunch table and eat pudding like Steven Glansberg together. We will both get the rawhide wallet instead of Hulk hands for Christmas. I will ruin this party. I will walk in and ruin the party.
Let's go to Aaron. What's up, brother? He says, I got $5 that says when they talk about the Cats, they mentioned some team scooping up Jed after this season. I want that $5. I want that $5. So who's getting Jed?
I need that $5.
Who's getting Jed after the season, guys?
Man, I wonder if Arizona was caught in this Pac-12 situation with Washington State and Oregon State, if Jed would be getting out of Arizona. But since they're not, and since they're going to the Big 12, and it seems that Jed and them, and you know, I think we were spot on this past week, when we were talking about Arizona has gone from just hoping to win and thinking they might win to expecting to win. And they've done it with quarterback injuries as well. Like when you watch teams play or you watch people in life, you can tell the confident ones walking down the street, right? You can tell the ones when you start talking to somebody, or you're doing a business deal, or you're doing something like that, people that are confident in themselves and believe in themselves. When I watch Arizona play, whether it's on offense, whether it's on defense, whether on special teams, and we can talk schematics and all this stuff, and Jed and them have done a fantastic job with that. But a lot of football is belief. That's what it is. A lot of it is belief. And we talked about Missouri kind of getting over that hump against Kansas State, right? And now you start believing that, hey, guess what? I'm the big dog now. What does boy say on Captain Phillips? I'm the captain now. Like at some point, you've got to take that step in your life, whether it's you're going to somewhere new, you're going to a new school, you're in a new environment, you got a new job. At some point, you got to stop hoping, right? And start expecting. And that's what I think Arizona's done. And that's the best compliment I can give Jed Fish. Not, oh, well, man, you guys really do fun stuff on offense. Or I love the way you guys pressure on defense or what you do on punt. The hardest thing for a coach to do is to put belief in you consistently when you haven't had it before. Every time I see Arizona's name pop up on the screen with a game, I look at them different. I don't look at that saying, well, you know, it's Arizona. We'll see. It's probably going to be 100-98. I look at them like that's a good football team. That's a football team that believes. That's a football team that plays complementary. That's a football team that if you want to have a rock fight, then let's go out behind the bar and I'll kick your ass. That's who Arizona is. And it's a lot of fun to watch. I love watching teams grow like that and blossom like that. And that's what they did again yesterday. You're not special. You're just next.
Yeah, no doubt. And think about the landscape, too. Arizona's going to the Big 12 next season at a time when Texas and Oklahoma are both leaving. You're on a better trajectory than your in-state rival, Arizona State. And the other school that you really would think about is Utah coming in, especially if Cam Rising is to return. Like, they would have to be like sort of that next favorite right there to enter the Big 12. And you just beat them 42-18. So to me, there's no downside in staying there and continuing to build as you enter this new conference. I mean, we could be talking about Arizona being the Big 12 champs next year, which is just crazy to even say that sentence out loud.
Yeah. Well, if you're Jed Fish, I need that contract. I need that big one, right? This is where the leverage, right? Leverage doesn't just lift rocks, right? I'm talking to AD. Hey, listen, you know, he's hot. He's Hansel at the Male Model Awards right now. You know, everybody's going to be wanting him. And you'll hear, well, you know, Jed Fish may have talked to this person. Jed Fish may have talked to this person. They've reached out, this, that, and the other. A lot of that is just trying to get that contract juiced up, and Arizona should do it because he deserves it. They need to lock him down because even though he didn't play and all this other stuff, the man's found the sauce. He's found the recipe. Now he's just bottling it and handing it out to the players.
All right, let's go to Quentin. What's up, Q? He says, when Texas needs to step up, they do. Put GA in front of Texas, you're going to see a different Texas football team.
Look, I mean, they've only got one loss. They're 10-1. I'm not considering to argue that with you, that their one loss was at, you know, neutral field to Oklahoma, which, you know, say what you want about Oklahoma now. And I watched them yesterday, Blaine. You watched them at my house. It's not good. They're regressing, but they won the game. They won the game, but they are regressing back to the mean defensively. That's what it looked like. They looked like Oklahoma from last year. You know, just getting run. I mean, they wouldn't touch the running back until they got to the second level half the time for BYU. And BYU's not exactly talented. across the board, even though they're all about 40 years old. But look, when it comes down to Texas, here's where I worry. I don't think they can stop Georgia. Not that I think Quinn can make a couple throws. Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, the guys that they have. Who Xavier Worthy got hurt?
Xavier Worthy got hurt.
He had one catch yesterday for 16 yards. He must have got hurt early, and I didn't see it. Or he had one rush for 16 yards. I wonder if it was on a reverse. He ended up with 4 catches for 77 yards. I didn't see him get hurt.
Yeah.
But again, that sucks, obviously. But you return 5 of your top 6 pass catchers. I just don't think Texas could stop Georgia. I think Georgia could keep Texas off the field as long as they want it. I really believe that.
Falcons not be able to stop Georgia right now, maybe.
I don't trust the Falcons. Those 2 guys that got inside, Mike and Will, don't trust them. Don't trust.
Let's go to Chad Smith since we're on the Sooner topic. Blaine, stop talking smack on my Sooners, even though it's true, and I feel the same way. A lot of my fellow fans are upset with OSU and Texas escaping. My thoughts is don't lose to Kansas or OSU, and you have a chance.
Look, I mean, Oklahoma controlled their own destiny, right? I mean, nobody, Oklahoma, you lost it. You had a great opportunity. You beat Texas, right? You beat Texas. You have an opportunity. We're talking about playoffs, sneaking in, and you lose to Kansas, right? You escaped the week before, and then you lose to Kansas, right, against UCF. Remember that? They barely survived that game. You thought, oh, life flashed before your eyes, not going to make that mistake again. Then you go on the road and lose to Kansas. But look at where Oklahoma is right now, and I know their schedule. We can talk about light and heavy schedules all we want, but I mean, they're a 2-loss team right now, and people are pissed. I think Brent Venables got Oklahoma back, even though, I mean, isn't that what Lincoln Riley did, right? He'd go 10-2, 9-3, or sneak in the playoff and get destroyed. It's just the optics of it aren't good, right? Oklahoma defensively it looks soft. It looks like just jam and jellies. They're not getting in gaps. They're not coming downhill like they were earlier. Where's this tough Oklahoma team where I see Stutzman bleeding from his nose and it's old Oklahoma and we're coming downhill right at you? I watch BYU. I know it's senior day. I know it hasn't been going great for BYU this year, but they are not talented. Watch that game against Iowa State last week. That's who BYU is. It's one of those situations where, it's a high-class problem, but it looks like Oklahoma, similar to, what we talked about with Texas, is regressing back to the mean on defense. And when that happens, you should be worried, right? Because you want to be playing your best ball this time of year. And Dylan Gabriel's, got his how to get tackled lessons from Tua.
Aaron, we appreciate you actually sending that $5, brother.
He did? Aaron actually sent it?
Yep. Let's go to Joseph Lavelle with a $5 donation. Appreciate it, Josie. Says, why can't Louisville be considered for the playoff? Obviously, they need help from everyone else, but there's no reason they shouldn't be in the conversation.
I mean, you need carnage, right? That loss on the road at Pitt, that's a bad loss. That's a bad loss. But, there's a lot of other teams I would rather play than Louisville this coming up weekend. Listen, if you have a situation where you have a 2-loss Pac-12 champion, something like that, right?
Yep.
Like if it in Florida State, you got obviously Louisville would have to win out to have a chance there. You look at the Big 12, Texas loses, right? That knocks the Big 12 pretty much out of the playoff. Again, I think the Big 10 is going to get a team in that's undefeated. I think it's going to be Michigan. But even if Ohio State plays Iowa, I think it's going to be an undefeated Big 10 team. So that's one spot gone. You just need carnage. But, Florida State's still going to be up there in the rankings. You win that game, that's a huge game. If you're Louisville right now, you obviously got to take care of business against Kentucky, and you need FSU to beat Florida. You need
them to beat Florida. Then you need to win out. You need a 2-loss Big 12 champ, a 2-loss Pac-12 champ, and then you would need Georgia to beat Alabama. You don't want to be involved in a situation where Alabama and Georgia both have 1 loss and you have 1 loss, because they'll slide Georgia. That would be one scenario this year where a non-conference winner could slide in. So you would just want to go ahead and say SEC champ be undefeated, Georgia make it, Big 10 champ be undefeated, and then we're sitting here with 1 loss. They can make it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Let's go to Mr. Wonder 816. He's talking about the playoffs. Agree with no blowouts. Football Nerds said the same thing. Some of these teams are going to get boat race if they make it, and you will live with that blowout for the rest of the season.
Well, like we did not everybody say that about TCU last year?
Yeah.
Well, I know they got blown out against Georgia in the national championship game, but they beat Michigan. Here's where I'm at on it. Some teams, there's matchups that are better, right? Some teams have better players, but a worse record. So, again, if we're just going to put teams into the playoff because they have better players, then why even play the regular season? Whoever has the top 4 ranked recruiting classes, just put them in the playoff. Let's just do that. Like you are what your record is, right? It's not everything is even. Not every team that has better players is going to win every game, right? Not every team that has worse players is going to lose every game. It should be the 4 teams that have earned the right from the first week of the season all the way to the last week of the season. And again, if Texas played Alabama, I'll use the Texas played Alabama right now on a neutral site, I would pick Alabama, right? I think Alabama is a better team than Texas. But if it comes down to it, and they are both 12-1, and the only loss that Alabama has is at home to Texas, and you have that head-to-head, Texas has to get in. Because if they don't, you ruin the regular season. You've totally ruined it. You talk about extending the playoffs, waters down the regular season. Keep teams out that won the head-to-head when it comes down to it with an even record. Then you're going to ruin the regular season. That's a slippery slope. That's why I'm glad we're going to 12. I hope it stays like this, right? Because I think what you're going to see is a lot of these. We see this in college basketball all the time, right? How in the world does a 2 seed ever beat a 15 seed? How in the world did UMBC beat Virginia, a 16 seed? Virginia had better players. Why should people just look past that game? They shouldn't even play this game. They should get a bye. No, it's who you are, it's where you are, and it's what your record says. It's the top 4. That to me, that's how you got to do it. You can't play it on, oh, well, this team has this many projected NFL draft picks, so we got to put them in, even though they have 2 losses and this other team has 1 loss. It's not how it works. That's not meritocracy.
All right, y'all leave me alone. I'm not an angry reader. I'm going to start reading happy from now on. So, Kanye Ron, he says, are you guys going to do a deep dive on the Florida State backup QB game situation this week?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we need to come up with a name for it, right? Like the replacement
second string
or something. Yeah, look, we're going to be breaking down everything. I mean, if you guys don't know, if it's first time finding us, there's a lot of people in the chat. We go live each weekday morning, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. You can find us to take live calls. Obviously, we're on YouTube, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, we're on Daily Wire, and we keep it about sports. We're going to break down every rivalry game. I mean, we put out previews, early bets, all type of stuff. So we're going to be breaking it down, from a fundamental standpoint, to quote Kent Murphy. I do want to give a shout out. We haven't talked about Clemson yesterday or Kansas State. Nice win from Clemson at home. They basically, beat him in the middle 2 quarters. He scored 28 points in the second and the third, found a way. Tough for Drake Mann, North Carolina, but the under did hit. Me and Blaine live bet it for a decent amount of money at 58.5. Woo! Thank goodness. But no, nice win for Dabo. I just still can't stand watching him run down the hill. It just makes everybody worse.
And North Carolina still rushed for 248. I think that was the only bet I missed yesterday. Maybe it was North Carolina plus 7.5.
Yeah.
Man, Drake May 16 for 36, 209 touchdown interception.
Yeah,
It just hasn't been
get out of North Carolina.
hasn't been good enough down the stretch, man.
They made no adjustments throughout this entire game on offense.
Is it time for Mac to go?
I mean, they're 8-3.
I know, I know, but is it like? I don't know, man. It's just I love Mac Brown. Mac Brown's one of the best people on the planet. If you've ever met him, you know that. But it just kind of feel like, man, fresh start, right? Febreze brothers, like fresh start. I don't know. I just feel like I think Mac may hang it up at the end of the year. I'm gonna be very interested to see if he does. Who gets that job? Whether it's Jamie Chadwell or something like that. But nice win for Clemson, and then Kansas State, baby, yesterday.
Yeah,
big dub, pulling it out in the end. Will Howard again, when he's running and throwing it consistently, he's a problem. He's also a massive look. Lance Leopold's done a great job at Kansas. I know they've had quarterback issues. Jalen Daniels just can't stay healthy, even though he said he's going to return next year. I'm excited to see that. This is a good old fashioned rivalry game. Kansas State 31-27 won it at the end. I tell you what, man, I just like Kleiman. I like the way they play. I like their identity. I think he does a really good job playing to their strengths and who they are. But that was a fun matchup to watch as well.
I was going to beat some jinx with the $5 donation. Here we go, boys. $700 richer after hitting an 8-legger last night and sharing the love. Love that nose tackle kicking from Missouri, baby. Let's go.
Hey, let us know
what parlay
you hit. What? Hey, let us know which ones you hit. I always like to see which ones actually hit.
Let's go to Willie Jack Black with a $10 donation.
Willie Jack.
Do y'all think Carson Beck will be in the Heisman conversation after the regular season?
Yes. If I'm telling you right now. And by the way, Georgia Tech, Georgia should win that game, but what Brent Key and Buster Faulkner have done over there at Georgia Tech been very, very impressive. Won again yesterday. That's Georgia can't just roll their helmet out there in that one. But if Carson Beck goes and balls against Bama, he has to handle business against Georgia Tech. Keep doing what you're doing. If he goes and balls against Bama, you have to get an invite. There's no way you don't. I mean, look at his numbers. The efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to know why Carson Beck doesn't get talked about as much as some of these other guys. He doesn't play a sexy brand of ball, right? It's not. You don't watch Carson. You watch Jaden Daniels, like, oh my god, like it's just whatever. It's like one of those painters who's doing it like right in front of you. You're like, oh, this is crazy. Or you watch, Bo Nix can do both, right? And the system Bo Nix is in, I know Dan wants to run the ball. But they are trying to get Bo Nix the Heisman. Go look at the billboards in Times Square and stuff like that around the country. I just think Carson Beck makes good decisions. Right? He's not the guy. He's not going to be the dude running up on Baywatch that all the chicks dream of. Right? He's not Brad Pitt running around here, in Fight Club or the Top Gun scene where they're playing volleyball on the beach. No, you know what he is? He's the guy that's going to treat you right. He's the guy that's going to pay the mortgage on time. He's the one that's going to be a really good dad. He's the one that's not going to get fired or put his family's future in jeopardy because of something stupid. He's not going to drink and drive home, right? He's going to Uber. That's what Carson Beck is. And you know what? That isn't the sexiest thing of all time, but it wins. It wins. And deep down, that guy that makes the right decisions probably going to live longer. Deep down, that guy that makes the right decisions probably going to be a better family man. That man that makes the right decisions is going to leave a better legacy. That's who Carson Beck is, right? He's not the male model, right? He's not Derek Zoolander. He's the guy who made enough good decisions to buy the venue where they're doing the modeling show at. That's who he is.
If you're in this chat right now and you're on a computer, just go type in Sid from Ice Age on Google and pull up images because that's who Carson Beck is.
Right, he really looks like him.
He looks just like him.
And I hate, again, we have fun and we make fun of ourselves.
No,
stuff like that, but
I ride
yeah, man. Like if Carson Beck started walking around with a woolly mammoth and a tiger as friends, I wouldn't be surprised.
And he's just looking for an acorn all the time.
Just looking for an acorn all the time.
All the time. I was going to Will Hewitt with a $5 donation. He says, I told Blaine when he was down bad, I got him. This one's for you, buddy. Love y'all. Go Dogs. Love you, Will.
Appreciate it, Will, man. It must be so much fun to be a Georgia fan like now.
On top of the world.
What is it like to just win all the time?
On top of the world.
Like I really it's like he's doing 2010. Auburn went undefeated. Like I saw it once, right? We're just like showing up. Cam Newton.
Couldn't believe it.
We know what's going down. But would it be like that for like 3 straight years? That's
the real question is, are they going to turn into North Korea like Alabama fans in the first time that they lose a football game?
They already have.
Fire Kirby Smart time.
They're past North Korea.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Kirby's Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
That's who Kirby is.
That's a different country. That's China, but that's
I know. I said they're past North Korea.
It's like every time Kirby says something in a meeting, everybody stands up. They're like,
yeah.
Like he's got them convinced he talks to dolphins, and they think he really talks to dogs.
We're not building more coal plants. We're just building 6 more a week, and no one will know about it. Yeah, I'll sign your environmental deal. Sure, buddy,
for sure. That's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. All right, what else we got as we wind down here?
CG87343 $5 donation. It says 1 linebacker, 1 cornerback has won the Heisman. Approximately 36 QBs and 21 running backs took it. Definitely an award for mostly offensive players.
Yeah, it's an offensive award. Look, if Ndamukong Suh didn't win it, nobody's going to win. If Honey Badger didn't win it, nobody's going to win it on defense.
Charles Woodson got it, though.
Charles Woodson, he also returned kicks and stuff, too. But, to me, what Honey Badger did was just impressive as Charles Woodson. Like, when you look at it at the end of the day. So, I just think now we live in a different time, right? It's not, Ron, split-toed Johnson running the ball anymore like it was like 1951. Like it's just a different situation. It's a quarterback award. That's what it is.
All right, I think I got to all the donations. Do y'all want to hit some NFL and fantasy?
Yes. Let's do it quickly. It's good timing. Remember, hit that like button in the chat. Let's roll through these. All right, the Bears are 8-point dogs at the Lions. The over-under is 48.
Went up.
Why would I not just bet this down to 6.5 for the Lions?
Well, you know who's back for the Bears?
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields is back.
Yeah.
One big pickup they have. That Montez Sweat trade's looking really good,
dude,
for the Bears. He's
Montez
been playing really good. But the Lions, man, it just comes down to the Lions defense. How do they perform? You go back to the Chargers game last week, struggled. struggled throughout this game. But this game is at Detroit.
Yes.
This game's at Detroit.
At Detroit. I think I'm not going to bet a spread on this game because I want to see how healthy Justin is when he is back. A healthy Justin Fields is dangerous. So I will be taking the over in this game, though.
Me too. I want the over 48.5 and the Lions to win.
Love it.
Yeah. I can hear Millie outside. Millie can come in if she wants. Reed. All right, the Cowboys get ready to go murder the Panthers.
Dude, I just don't understand this spread. Look, I understand the Panthers defense is good, and I understand this game is at the Panthers. But the Cowboys are playing some of their best football right now. Dak Prescott's playing some of his best football right now. And you're telling me I can get this game at 9.5?
Yeah. I'm probably going to ride that line with you. Right now in DraftKings, the Panthers are minus 112 at plus 10.5. They're actually getting the money. The over-under is 42.5.
The Panthers did switch up coordinators. For the head coach will be calling the offensive play calls for the Panthers.
Yep. All right, Raiders going to the Dolphins. Dolphins are 14-point favorites. Oh, here she is. Come on, Tilly. Get up here.
Millie!
Come on.
Millie.
A millet. Get that sausage ball up here.
Come here. No, Mowgli's like, hey, I'm little and cute too.
What's up, Mimi?
Millie, look, say something to the mic.
Hey, Millie.
My goodness. All right, the whole crew's
here.
Go. The whole crew's here. All right, Millie, what do you think? We like the Dolphins minus 14. That's a lot of points. Or what about the over at 44.5?
Millie.
Millie,
she heard
it.
Can't
hear. Yeah.
Man, this spread's weird to me. I think Favre has come in and looked okay. For the Raiders.
Tell him who Farva is.
It's McConnell.
Aiden O'Connell. Just like Farva from
Little Super Troopers. I think Max Crosby's a problem. I think he does somewhat cause a distraction in this game, but I do feel like, God, this is the Dolphins. You get Jalen Ramsey back. It's just going to be tough sledding, man. It's going to be tough sledding.
I love the over in this game.
I think 14.5 is too many, though. I think that's too many. I think the Raiders keep it a little bit closer.
I like the Dolphins. I'll take the Dolphins with that spread. That's a lot of points, though.
You're right. Points, yeah.
All right. By the way, Millie's team is the Dolphins. She actually has a Dolphins jersey that we should have put on her. So we put on her next Sunday.
So weird. Okay.
I'll find it. The Titans are 7-point underdogs on the road at the Jags, who is the most schizophrenic, bipolar, multiple personality disorder team I've ever seen in my life. The Jaguars are 7-point favorite. The over-under is 39.5. I'm not betting anything with the Jaguars. I'm not touching it.
Me neither.
Yeah, I think this is too many points. I would buy this down to 2.5 if I'm the Jags.
Really?
If I would have to bet in this game, if I was a president sitting up on a balcony watching a performance back a while ago, and I feel like there's going to be a gun to my head soon, I would bet the Jaguars minus 2.5.
All right. Cardinals, 5.5-point dogs on the road at the Texans. We know Kyler's back, right? Man, I kind of like the over in this one. It's at 48.
I like the Texans, man.
5.5.
Yeah.
Texans been rolling.
How do you feel about Kyler?
I know. It's just like, I feel like this is just such a 4-point game. This just has this 4 points written all over it. I like the over too. 48's a lot of points. But neither of these defenses are great. I thought Kyler looked good. CJ Stroud, man. Right now, CJ Stroud and Sam Howell are playing some of the best quarterback play in the NFL, which if you'd have thought we'd have sat
Howell's balling right now.
If you'd have thought here, look, I've always believed in Sam. Been saying it for a while since he was at North Carolina. Been saying it. Sam has an absolute cannon, and his football IQ is really high. But these two guys are playing some of the best football in the NFL right now. So I like the over in this game. Give me the Texans.
All right, Giants are 9-point underdogs, or whatever that group of men's going to attempt to do, whatever they call themselves now, are going to play. Speaking of Sam Howell, the Commanders at -9. The over under is 38. God, is it a full send for Washington?
I don't know, man.
This is kind of in the predicament I'm in fantasy, and I'm kind of glad we brought this up, and this game's coming up. So I have and chat, tell me what you think. If you have any fantasy questions, chat, throw them in there. I have the Jets defense. All right, the Jets are on the road at the Bills. We saw what the Broncos did with the Bills a little bit, had some success. Josh Allen known to turn it over, but they did fire their offensive coordinator. The teams that are on the board for me to pick up if I wanted to defensively is the Giants at Washington, projected 6.5 points. The Titans at Jacksonville, projected 5.7 points. And this is the one I'm starting to like the more I look at it. Denver at home versus the Vikings.
God, I just don't know how you don't take the Broncos.
But like, I hate betting against Josh Dobbs.
Oh, I know. Like again, Josh Dobbs just find way. It's so funny. Every time I look on the TV now, Josh Dobbs is winning something. Like they showed the replay of the Tennessee Hail Mary. I'm like, there Josh Dobbs is again, just finding a way to win the game. I mean,
but it's just not like the Bills have been phenomenal on
Yeah.
all. They haven't. But this game,
he's just kind of like Jeremy Lin.
If this game was in New York, I'm definitely playing the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but it's at Buffalo. You just
Maybe
fired your
Denver
coordinator. It's like one of those games where, like, look, the Jets' defense is really good.
Mm-hmm. I like Broncos. I like the Broncos.
All right, I like that. Next game, Crane. Who we got? I can find it.
Oh, my bad. Let's go. Chargers are 3-point favorites at the Packers over unders 44. I like the Chargers here. Why not just get it at 2.5? I don't trust Jordan Love.
I like the Chargers too. What's that over under at?
44.
Lane,
Lane,
I
what
like
do you
the
think?
Chargers.
I don't know. I'm trying to decipher David's.
I don't know. That over under feels right. I don't know. Maybe over. Maybe I'd take the over if I had to.
I think Keenan Allen will be playing in this game for the Chargers, which is good. He got banged up a little bit last week. I don't believe in Jordan Love. I mean, it's just he looks like he's on like one of those scary roller coasters every time he plays quarterback. Every time the camera just zooms on his face, his eyes are just this big, just like he just landed on Earth.
Well, he's like, look, are you looking at the things that are running at me? Like,
but I like the Chargers in this game. I am playing against Justin Herbert, so I need him to not do well.
Need that Packers defense.
So
You got Austin Eckler.
Let's hand it to
First-time
Austin.
touchdown.
Let's hand it to Austin every time.
Let's do that.
Let's hand it to Austin every time. But I think the Chargers are a better football team, even with this game being at Lambeau.
Yeah. Well, I'm just ready for them to fire Staley. It's about time. Sick of watching the same movie over and over again. Steelers are 2-point underdogs at the Browns. Browns, obviously, Deshaun Watson out for the rest of the season. How do we feel about Pittsburgh? Over-under is 34, boys. 34.
I like the under. I like the under in this game. The Browns defense is really good. Myles Garrett is a super villain.
He's the best defensive player in football, in my opinion.
And the Steelers, dude, we talked about this last week. The Steelers have been outscored. They've been like outgained in most of their games, and they're somehow 6-3.
6-3.
It's
amazing.
I know,
It's
it's crazy.
the sneakiest 6-3 team I've ever seen.
They always do this, man. I think I might take Pittsburgh money line.
I like Pittsburgh money line in this game as well.
And the under.
Is it going to be DTR or PJ Walker?
They said Dorian Thompson-Robinson's going to start.
Dude, I think that's a good move. I like DTR.
That's the last thing I heard anyway.
You know who I think Jaden Daniels is, and I know we got to see it in the league, right? It doesn't always translate. I think Jaden Daniels is a better version of DTR. That's what I think. I think there's a lot of similarities.
I think this might be a rough one for DTR this week against that Steelers. That Steelers secondary is not great. It's not great, but the line. I mean, you got TJ. I mean, you got that other kid who's a rookie who's an absolute dog. So I like the Steelers, and I think that's a good bet.
All right, last couple here. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I say last couple. There's like 5 more games. The Bucks, 13.5-point underdogs on the road at the Niners. The Niners, they look healthy. They look hot. They look pissed. Give me San Fran. Sorry, Baker.
Agreed.
Do we like the over? Hey, 41.5, Blaine? Or the Bucks? Do you just not trust the Bucks on offense?
Well, look, okay. I mean, Baker's having one of his best years
in
the NFL statistically. So
I agree.
Kudos to Baker. A lot of people like to crap on Baker. He's having a great year. But the 49ers are hitting a stride. I thought Brock Purdy came out and looked good. They're getting healthy. Debo's back. Christian McCaffrey actually didn't score a touchdown in one game. Who would have thought? But man, I'd probably buy this game up to 14.5 for the Bucks, and I would take the Bucks to cover that spread. It's a lot of points. But I do feel like the Bucks defense hasn't been playing great, but I do think they get up for this game a little bit. And they maybe it's a 10-point game. So give me the Bucks plus 14.5.
Yep. All right. Jets, 8-point underdogs on the road at Buffalo. The over-under is 39. Obviously, there's been some change in Buffalo with Ken Dorsey being let go, the offensive coordinator. Josh Allen is just turning the ball over at an incredible level, and this is not the defense you want to see when you're turning the ball over a lot. But on the good side, the Jets offense is like watching a tragedy. It's just bad, man. It doesn't make you feel good. Say what you want about Zach Wilson. That 8's a weird number, though, man.
Yeah.
Do you like the over-under at 39, David? What do you think?
Not really. I mean, you have to like the Bills to at least win the football game, but the 7.5, like, I don't know where that's coming from. The way that they've been playing, and you're going to have your first game since Ken Dorsey got fired. The 39.5, I do like. I would take the under, but then again, who knows what Buffalo team you're going to get? They could go out there and score 41 themselves.
Yeah. Look, man, I really like Jets 8.5 in this game. I feel like Josh Allen is known for turning the ball over, and he's about to play against a defense who wants to get after it every play. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to run on him. All right. Sauce is going to follow Stephon. All right. The entire game, just like Surtain did last week, and kind of shut him down. And I don't think you'd be crazy to put some money on the Jets money line to win this football.
Really?
I wrote this.
They're
one
plus 300 on DraftKings right now.
Yeah, they're plus 300. Yeah, like Zach Wilson sometimes, like you remember the Chiefs performance? You play really like big O teams. Sometimes when the lights are the brightest, something just comes out of a kid.
I took them to beat the Raiders and they didn't, so I can't trust them again.
Look, I try. I get that. That's fine. But if for some reason, there's a whisper in the wind this morning. There's something about the Jets maybe pulling this one off.
Somebody's mom must be at the game then.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, last two. Seahawks, 1.5-point underdogs on the road at the Rams. Love Seattle on this spot. I actually really like the over at 46.5 as well.
I really like the under.
Really?
Yeah. Even when you get Matthew Stafford back, even when Matt was back, they were playing average. I don't think this offense is that good for the Rams. And I don't think the Seahawks offense is okay, but they're known to sputter, and they haven't been running the ball great lately. And when the Seahawks are at their best, they run the football well. Trust me, I have Kenneth Walker on my fantasy team. If I see Zach Charbonnet in there again, I'm going to lose my mind. But I like the under. I'd buy it up, though. I'd get it at 48.5, and I'd take that under.
3 straight losses for the Rams. Man, it's been ugly down the stretch here. I like the Seahawks by a field goal.
It's a good
nice
pick.
All right. By the way, there's pictures of Millie now circulating on social media. I think on X, she's made her debut. So
Millie,
we're really proud, Millie, and proud of you so much. Love you.
Dude,
all right,
last sausage ball, dude.
She is. They're hilarious. Well, we're almost done. The Vikings are plus 2.5 on the road at Denver. Boys, the Broncos right now rising like a phoenix from the ashes. Left them for dead, and we should have. It was awful, but Russell looks healthy. He's moving around good, not making bad decisions. The defense is more opportunistic than Matthew McConaughey on Sorority Row after a big Texas game. I like the Broncos minus 2.5. Why would I not lay a little money on them?
They've been playing better, figuring it out.
I just don't know why I'd ever bet against Josh Dobbs.
I know.
I know. Just keep seeing it, man. It's every week we bet against him. And he's over there in a wheelchair with a little thing on his head. He knows the future of the game. He knows what the defense is in before they even know what they're in.
That comes with certain penalties.
Like Professor X?
Yeah, he's a 2023 Professor X. That's what he is. And his parents, go watch Men in Black 2. They're in the lobby. They're in there. Dead ass. I'm not betting this game. I'm not doing it. That's why I'm scared to play the Broncos defense. Josh Dobbs will break. No one can tackle Josh Dobbs. People forget Josh Dobbs is a tree.
Listen, anybody that can go in there and win when they don't even know the offense, or
the player's name. He doesn't know anyone's name in the huddle. There's no way in that game.
Which means you are just enough to be able to take the snap and the ball handling. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, it's like one read and just take off.
Capacity of Josh Dobbs.
Well, look, you can't get it all in during that time. Like, you just can't. Like, it's
He's like one of those speed readers, right? Who just opens books like. Blah, 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 blah.
Hey, you speak Chinese now.
He's a guy from Suits.
Yeah, no, he's like Will Smith and get in the car, just figures out the Rubik's Cube in front of the guy that runs like.
I'm not betting the game. That's why I'm scared to play the Broncos.
You're not betting it. All right. Well, let's before we ride out of here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get to the chat one more time.
Quentin, $2 donation. He says T Sweat is a certified dog.
Bills up to 8.5. Just changed.
All right, I think that's all the donations for today, chat. Happy birthday to Mr. Todd.
Yes, Papa Richard.
Yes. Old Richie. Turned into a nice, what is he, 25, 30, Dave? What is he?
Yeah, 35.
Yeah, add those together. Happy birthday. Mr. Todd. But no, appreciate you guys. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Got a great lineup of shows for you this week as we enter Rivalry Week. Make sure you're subbed to the channel. Make sure you listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you get a chance to. We really appreciate it. Got some great merch too in the store right now, and we're going to roll out. We have a bunch of great sponsors, and it's a great time of year. And look, college basketball is here too. You know, I know we're getting to the end of football, but it saves me sometimes. So, any parting thoughts from you guys?
Should be a great Sunday, boys.
Pray for my fantasy team. I have Mark Andrews. He got hurt on the first drive.
No,
Yeah.
I can't. After what happened last year, I can't pray for your fantasy team. I'm sorry.
I think that's we all remember how that went down.
Selfish,
But we
David.
appreciate you guys. Make sure you sub to the channel. Catch us live tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Central. That's 7:30 a.m. Eastern. Call in. Let's have some fun. We'll catch you on the flip side.